Hi everyone, this is Matthew Janda for Card Runners, and I'm here with a live play video where I'm actually going to play 3 limits, no limit 50, no limit 100, and no limit 200 of zone poker, which is basically the Zoom equivalent on Bovada. We'll jump into live play in just a moment, but I first want to discuss what I'd like you to take from this video. In this video, I'm going to play 3 tables of zone poker, all at a different limit. I'm doing this for a few reasons. The first is a few people have requested I play zone hands at smaller stakes. And also, I'm a big believer that it really doesn't matter what limit you're playing. Over 98% of the lines you take should be the same regardless of your limit. Good poker is just good poker, and you should play good poker no matter what stake you're playing. There are a couple of really minor adjustments I'll make at each table. So good poker is good poker. I'll play more or less the same at every table. The only real difference you'll maybe even see, and you might not even see this because I'm only going to play, for half an hour of this video or an hour of this video, is I fold slightly more to 3-bets at lower limits as people 3-bet a stronger range. And this still may be incorrect because maybe I have a bigger skill edge at lower limits that I should still defend very, very aggressively. But you'll probably see me fold a little bit more if I open, the button and get 3-bet at no limit 50 than no limit 200. But barely more, but just slightly more. I also open the button slightly wider at lower limits since people 3-bet less. This one I'm more confident in. You really can get away with abusing the button more the lower the limit you're playing and the worse your opposition is. But that's pretty much it. And these adjustments are extremely minor. I more or less would play the same way at no limit 25 or no limit 400. You're pretty much going to see me value bet in the same spots, bluff in the same spots. Maybe if a bluff looks really close, I'll be a little more likely to make it at one limit than another, but really, you're not going to see much of a change. And then a quick side note. Do not be the guy who dislikes advice from higher stakes players because they don't play your limit and ignores the advice from other micro stakes regulars at the same limit because they suck. Seriously, no one likes that guy. I've seen people do this before where they just don't want to listen to players that play higher than them because they think, oh, you don't know what it's like to play at this limit, so your advice isn't good. But then they also ignore players that are playing at their limit because they think, well, no one that's actually good plays a limit this low. So then they just end up ignoring advice from everyone. You do not want to be that person. It gets you stuck at low limits. If you aren't a winning player, it's for either one or 2 reasons. Number 1 is the rake is too high relative to your possible edge. The rake is a big deal at really low limits, and that's something higher stakes players sometimes tend to forget. So maybe you are a winning player if there is no rake, but the rake's there, and that's why you're not winning money. And also, other players may play good poker better than you. So that's also why you're going to be losing money. If you play good poker better than your opponents do, you're going to win, assuming the rake doesn't just crush your winnings. Any adjustments based on stakes and read lists should be, in my opinion, incredibly minor. So I should make something very clear right now. We're going to be readless at all of these tables. If I did have a working HUD, then I would be more likely to adjust and exploit my opponents at lower limits, because as you play lower limits, you find more really bad players where doing something really exploitable can be good. But that's not me really adjusting because I'm playing a lower limit. Like, I'm not playing differently because it's no limit 50 rather than no limit 200. I'm just adjusting because I found a way to exploit my opponent that my HUD's letting me know. So in other words, a fish is a fish, whether you're playing no limit 200 or no limit 10. So it's totally fine to adjust based on a read you have on your HUD, but you would be doing the same adjustment no matter what limit you're playing, so long as you had that read. Okay, so hopefully everything's clear. We're just going to jump in and start playing some hands. Alright guys, this is my second go at recording a session, and I gotta let you know that we can't realistically pause to talk about hands because you get kicked off tables crazy fast, and you also don't have very long to make decisions. So we're going to be kind of just rolling with it and seeing how this works. I get 3-bet in the bottom left, but since I'm already involved in a hand in the upper left, I'm just going to check back. Ace-7 suited, like it's a fine hand to 3-bet there or not. It's not a big deal. And then we're definitely going to 3-bet in the upper right. And we're definitely going to call in the upper right, especially since we have outs to just making the 7. So I'm going to totally call here. It'll get tricky if he bets the river, but yeah, honestly, I think he's going to bet the river pretty often with the way I played it, but I still think we have to call a 9, second pair in the upper left. Awesome, now we're going to take the free check. Hope we got lucky, and we did. Cool. So, nice. Okay, yeah, so unfortunately, I really wanted to be able to pause and talk during these videos, and it just doesn't look like it's doable. And this is pretty much the side I can play on, so we'll make do. But yeah, you're going to see me just try to play solid poker at every single table. All right, so this hand does not have robust equity in the upper left, so we're definitely going to fold that. When someone limps, I think you can go either way. In the bottom left here, I don't really care if you check that back or 3-bet. I don't have a strong preference. I'm not in love with c-betting. I'm still going to c-bet in the bottom right. I'm going to go and bet like 2. I think both pre-flop and betting the flop here are really close. I don't really have a strong preference. I think you're going to just win the pot a lot of the times pre-flop right off the bat. You can sometimes get lucky after c-betting the flop if you don't win it immediately. Like we did have 3 to a flush and 3 to a jank straight. Remember, if we run around with the jack and the king, it's not that great. But yeah, we can sometimes get lucky. So anyways, yeah, I think both pre-flop and the flop are really close in the bottom left. And now we're going to muck. All right. So yeah. Hopefully I will still talk clearly despite a lot going on. So I'll do my best to talk slowly and articulate. So yep. So you have about 7 seconds to make a decision here. Not a long time at all. So that really puts the pressure on. Upper left, I think king 10 off is too weak to open up in the middle position. I can see an argument for it because it does reasonably well if the big blind cold calls, because the big blind might be cold calling with some dominated stuff if you make your open small. But overall, I still think it's too weak. All right, so 10's in the bottom left. All right. I'm going to go ahead and cold call. I don't really think this hand's... I like having cold calling ranges in position, even in under the gun versus middle position, where you're pretty vulnerable to getting squeezed. So just going to call and see what happens. And then this, I think we have a good enough price to call. I'm not in love with it, but 10s are pretty good. And our opponent can easily be bluffing if he has an overpair. If he has an overpair, then you know, we can really get paid if we hit a set. I'm going to call in the upper right too, pot odds, etc. I'm going to call at least 1 bet here in the in the bottom left. And then I don't expect most players to put a ton of pressure on after we check call 1, because, you know, he might think we can have a king. We might be able to have... It's very reasonable for us to have ace king here. Like, we can easily have ace king. And so this is probably pretty close. Like, well, sorry. What I was trying to get at is 10s probably actually aren't all that high on our range on that flop. But I think in reality, he could have just easily been 3-bet bluffing, and then he doesn't keep barreling here. You know, he easily can have it, but we get 3-to-1 odds when he bets the flop, so I think it's fine to call. We'll just buy more chips if he barrels. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So we muck that. But yeah, you're going to see I call 3 bets pretty leniently. And same with 4 bets. Like, if you give me a good price, I pretty much take it very often. And that can result in you being very swingy, because sometimes you're going to get, you know, go on streaks where you win just lots of money. This hand's robust enough in the bottom right that I'm going to go ahead and make a pretty big open, hoping he just folds. And the upper left, we have a great hand. We have a great hand in the upper left for against a shorty, right? Because we have a good but not great hand, which is exactly what we want with when our opponent's short, right? We don't need robust equity against someone that has a quarter size stack. So this hand's fantastic in the upper left. And I'm debating if I want to take them all in here or just call. If I call, he has almost I'm just going to go all in here. He has about a half pot size bet left, so I'm going to go all in. Yeah, if you got a straight, you got a straight. Like, our hand was very, very good on the flop against a quarter stack here. And if he folds, then I'm very happy to deny him his equity. And if he's doing, like, he's obviously doing something probably stupid. So let's just, you know, I'm hoping he folds. Okay, cool. I was hoping he folds there, but we had some equity if we did get it in, and our hand was pretty strong. Even after the 9th turn, he probably will check raise 10-jack on the flop some of the time. Okay, so king 4 off, like, that's still, I think, significantly too weak to open the button. If you had some awesome read that, you know, so I'm going to fold queen 7 off in the upper left. If you had some awesome read that, you know, like that one of the blinds is too tight, then you can open hands that weak. But against unknowns, even if I want to open the button a little bit too wide, that's significantly too wide. All right, so here, I'm just going to go and open 10-7 off the cutoff after a middle position limper. I think that's pretty straightforward. And then in the upper right, this randomizer, I think, doesn't look good enough to c-bet. I'm just going to give up. I don't even have a backdoor flush, and I'd really like... Well, he already had the check. He had it clicked on check. So that's kind of interesting to me. It's really hard for me to represent something here. All right, this hand does not have robust equity. We're going to fold in the upper, in the bottom left. Okay, so he has something auto-clicked on check or check fold. So I'm going to just go ahead and make like a half pot bet on the river here. I don't expect this to work, but I'm only risking half the pot. He might have it clicked on. Okay, he had it clicked on auto muck. So cool. But yeah, that was a good example of in the upper right. Like, you always want to be aware, like, if you're betting half pot, like, it doesn't need to work half the time. Like, I was expecting that bluff to fail, and then I just got lucky that it did work. Hence, poker is very swingy. Okay. So definitely going to open the suited stuff. I like to open pretty big in the small blind. I think people usually give too good a price. So I tend to, I think, open and 3-bet a little bit bigger than most people do. Especially when I'm opening from the small blind. And 3-betting out of position. Alright. So this session's been a little bit calmer than the one I tried to record earlier. And I was pausing tables, and then it was kicking me off tables earlier, whereas this one's been calm so far. All right, so in upper right, I don't think you want to bet a hand like this. Like, we have a good amount of equity, but the equity is super not robust. King 8 off, I'll call here, getting 2-to-1 odds blind versus blind. But yeah, we're gonna check that. If this king was a club, I'd probably raise the flop because it would almost be 3 to flush, 3 to straight. So I would go ahead and give it a raise, and I think people might fold a bit too much in these spots. And that looks like a good board to c-bet, whereas with no club, I'm just going to go ahead and muck it. So, yeah, if I had king 8 off there with the king of clubs, I would have raised it. Okay, ace-jack off under the gun. Sure, we're going to open, especially if you notice like the button's kind of short. That makes the open even better. Make it 5. That makes the open even better because now if the button calls, which he is more likely to because he's a fish, ace-jack off will do very well against him. And also, since I made my open smaller with ace-jack off, like, honestly, I bounce back between whether or not I'm opening or min raising. But since I made my open smaller, it's easier for me to it's probably the worst hand I'll open in the bottom left there. But since I made my open smaller, I can't start overbetting yet because he can have some still strong hands. But if he calls, I might overbet river. Well, now I'm not going to overbet. But this would have been a spot where I could have maybe overbet some rivers or some turns in rivers here because he'd be very hard for him to be strong. Then on the turn. And debating if I want to like try to half pot like each street. I think I do. Alright, can I have 6s in my range? Yeah. I can have any 6. Actually, I'm going to check back, I think. I think he can just maybe represent more 6s than I can since I made my open small. So I'm going to bet like 14 or something. Alright. Upper right's close. Upper right's close here. But yeah, so what I was trying to say is I made my open small in the upper left, right? I opened to only $5. So he was risking 3 to win something like, ooh, that's a lot of math. He was risking 3 to win like 8 pre-flop. So it's more realistic for him to call with like 6s. And I don't really think I can get half pot of value if I bet turn and bet river. So that's why I just decided to check the turn. Because if he's really thinking, he might realize I don't really have many 6s in my opening range, right? Like I have like pocket 6s and like that might literally be it. Like we can argue 6-7 suited and ace 6 suited, but I don't have that many 6s. Whereas since I open small, he's calling from the big blind. He might be able to have a lot more like suited connector junk or ace 6 suited and friends. So for that reason, I decided to check back the turn. Okay, and then I'm gonna just probably ship turn. I'm gonna ship the turn here if he calls. Realistically, hopefully he just ships right now and loses. I'm gonna just fold 2s to an open. All right, so here I'm going to ship. Like, this is a spot where I think a lot of people wouldn't ship, even though I think it's pretty easy. He's short. It's only a little bit more than a pot-sized bet. Yeah, I might just insta-lose to, like, a set or a flush and be drawing dead, but I also could have gone all in here with, like, some sort of draw. Okay, snap calls. All right, sets are pretty good, so we lose. But, like, yeah, the turn all in here I think is very, very easy. You know, sets are hard to make. It is what it is. We're usually going to be ahead there. He usually jams his draws on the flop, and then yeah, he usually jams his draws on the flop, and then he doesn't usually have a set that he's able to slow play. Okay, cool. So yeah, so on the flop in the last spot on the no limit 100 table in the upper right, even like I didn't work, like I knew I was going to be overbetting a lot of turn cards there, and it's just totally fine. Like I didn't need to make the flop bet bigger so I could overbet the turn. I could wait for some more draw to come on the board where the board gets more coordinated, and then I go all in, and it's fine for me to do that with a made hand like queens, or with a hand like you know, like a draw if I just had a draw. What do you have? I have ace 3 suited in the small blind. All right, so I'm going to actually go ahead and 3-bet this guy. Sorry, let's go to 4. I probably would have made that 450 if I had more time, but All right, so definitely check folding in the upper right. That's a garbage flop. So I guess I think by definition, right, since I didn't 3-bet twos and I did 3-bet ace-3 suited, I think ace-3 suited is better than twos against the button open. Honestly, I don't really care that much. In the upper right, I'm still just gonna, I think, let it go. It just seems like it's too weak. I do open the button a little bit bigger than the other positions usually. So here I'm just gonna open to 6. Although I really wouldn't care if you open a 5 or 6, and 5 might have been better if they were both short. Okay. So I can't dump, like, this is a spot where I like to bet in the upper left and then like fire like big turn and river bets if someone check calls and I turn river blanks, but I can't do it here because of stack depth. So because of that, I'm actually going to check back. I don't really want to get check raised. There's a lot of good turn cards if I check back. Like even on this turn, like I can start representing stuff on this turn without too much trouble. I'm going to fold it since he donk bet onto a paired board, but like we would have hands here on the turn. We just happen to not have one. Sorry, I'm just checking everything real quick. Oh, I really wish I could take time here. But yeah, I'm going to fold once the board pairs. But yeah, I checked in the upper left. Betting was plus EV, but I think checking's plus EV too. I really didn't want to face some sort of check raise. And I think one of the advantages on betting a board like that, you don't get a ton of folds when you bet, but one of the advantages on betting a board like that, especially if you have a hand like I had, is if you do, if you hit, awesome, right? No matter what, if you hit, awesome. But if you miss, you can overbet when like the turn in the river blank, but I could not do that there because of our stack depth, so that's what further encouraged me to check. Here, this guy's short in the upper right. I don't think we'd see bet anyways. I thought I rebought back in here, but maybe not. So we're just going to check fold. But yeah, so realize, like, a lot of times it'll be a bad board to c-bet, but you can go, wait a second, this is a bad board to c-bet, but if he calls, I'm going to rain down giant bets on the turn and river. Whereas you can't do that if apparently I'm not really good at talking while playing. You can't do that if you're shallow. So I don't want to have any cold calling range in the bottom left, so I decided to 3-bet it. It's a really good spot to be, easily be results oriented, where like if the button would have 5-bet all in there, like I'm sure you guys are being like, well, what would you have done if the button 5-bets all in? And honestly, I'm probably check folding. But the button didn't. Here I'm gonna go and donk bet. Not really donk bet after he checks back. But yeah, I really didn't want to see him go all in there. Like that would have really, really, really sucked. And then on the river, I only have king high, so I'm going to go ahead and make a bet here. I don't like this. I don't think it's going to work half the time, but I still think it's a profitable bet. So yeah, that's kind of. So I ran out of time in the bottom left, which is why I didn't open it. Though I don't have a strong opinion either way. Tell whether you open that hand. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Yeah, in the upper left, I was not expecting that bluff to work half the time, but it doesn't need to because I'm betting smaller. Okay, that's a silly flop. Upper left, I don't want to call 3.5 times open. I just lose too much money if I get squeezed. Debating if I want to bet or check in the upper left. I think I do want to bet because I think I can make enough middle pairs and stuff fold. It's not bad to check back some like ace-high flush draws and stuff, but I think we just had enough going on. Ugh. Debating if I want to bet that. I think I don't. This isn't a turn card that really gets a lot of folds, and we still have ace queen high. So yeah, I'm gonna just stop bluffing and then barreling and hope we get lucky on the river one time. And then this looks like just a perfect board to c-bet in the bottom left, so I'm gonna do it. All right, so yay for us getting like the trickiest river. I'm not gonna bet that river. I don't think there's nearly enough value with queen jack and then kings having trips. So I'm just gonna check and hope I win, and I don't. All right, cool. So I'm really happy with the way I played that hand. Probably being kind of results oriented. Okay, so I'm gonna bet in the upper left and talk about it in a sec. Hold on. So in the upper left, I think it's a bet rather than a check largely because the big blind cold called. And when the big blind cold calls, his range is a lot weaker, so we're ahead of a lot more aces. Whereas I would not have bet, obviously, if the cutoff, well, maybe not obvious, but I would not have bet if the cutoff or the button cold called. I would have just checked the flop. Here on the turn, I think I'm going to go ahead and check again. I don't think I have enough. Okay, I don't think there's enough value in betting. I'm so vulnerable to getting check raised here if I bet, but I'm still going to do it. So I can't bet big here because I'm too vulnerable to getting check raised. But I still think I can bet some stuff here, and the fact that there's the queen and the king of the clubs, that does mean there's less flushes possible because the king and the queen. Okay, so let me see. I like 3-betting these types of hands. I'm not gonna not do it just because he's short. Like this stack up's not that problematic there. And then now we're gonna check back. So in the upper left, we couldn't have bet that big river that big because we need to get value from hands that we beat, and also our opponent can have flushes and we can't. Here, this actually happens sometimes. Like you 3-bet a hand like queen 3 suited, you just happen to make a pair, and then you end up winning at showdown. So I'm rooting for that, or rooting to bank a 3 one time. Nope. Let's hope he checks again. That's 5. All right. Let's think here. These are really close. I'm gonna open in the upper left. I think people fold a little bit too much in that spot. And I think on the river on the bottom, I think I'm gonna probably fold. I think this is close in the bottom left too. Like I think both that open, now we're gonna slam dunk check fold. But I think that open and whether or not to call that river that are both really close. Like I don't really have a strong preference. When he bets 5, I mean we're getting, you have to remember like we're getting 3 to 1 on that river. So I think we're usually losing there. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm gonna now start betting here. I think we just get enough folds in the upper left. Yeah, enough immediate folds for that to be profitable. So we're betting with a pretty bad hand, but it's hard for us to really have a good randomizer on that turn. Okay, so bottom left with the queen 3. All the time I'm calling rivers expecting to lose. We're just getting 3 to 1 there, so that'd be why I'd be calling. And I did fold, so by definition, I guess I thought it wasn't profitable, but I think it's probably reasonably close. I mean, you just see dumb stuff reasonably often. Or, you know, just because he's bluffing doesn't mean it was dumb. Having said that, you see dumb stuff pretty often. You're seeing me open to like 1.5, not necessarily because I think it's better than 125, just it's easier to click. Okay. All right, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can talk about so far. So yeah, I mean, it really hasn't been any different, like what limit I'm playing, right? Like, it's the same stuff everywhere. I'm usually taking a pretty straightforward line. I don't think there's been a single thing fancy that's come up. And we've probably played more hands than we would have even gotten to play if I wasn't playing zone. Oh, I run so bad. Yeah, really not much to say. I guess the one thing I would mention is, like, this hand's right on the cusp. I'm going to open it because I like ace-5, though. Ace-5 is like the best of the weak-suited aces. So just notice, I guess, that I'm making my opens kind of small in some spots. Like I'm opening a 5 at 1-2 and under the gun. So that encourages the big blind to call wider. So you have to be very aware that the big blind cold calling range looks nothing like the cold calling ranges from any of the other spots. So that encourages you to... Geez, I cannot talk and play, apparently. So I'm going to bet in the upper right. I sometimes check back weak-suited aces, but this board's just coordinated enough that I want to bet, and I think I'm just going to get enough calls from even like a reasonable-sized bet. That's a good turn, though. I like that turn. All right. Oh, and he's a halfie, too. It sounded like racist. Like I called him a mudblood. I just learned that term. Hold on. Sorry. Talking and playing. Can't do both. I'm trying to set him up so I can ship the river and hope he's just a fish because he's half-stacked. Go all in. Just go all in and don't have it. Ooh, that is not my river of choice. So now it's a really easy check. Obviously, we got a garbage river. Okay, didn't matter. Let me pause it, and then maybe we can talk. Okay, so we got some more time, so I'm going to keep running it. I played 1 or 2 hands, I think, while I was finishing the first, like, recording block. Okay. So King 7 suited, I think this is the bottom of my opening range. I don't like the fact that the button's deep on me, but I do like the fact that the big blind's short, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. All right, so King 7 here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and c-bet this because I think there's enough draw here. I have some robust equity with the diamonds, which I guess is kind of nice, but I think there's enough draw here, and I think people just like to cold call with hands like ace-queen, so I basically think the king favors my range by enough that I can go ahead and c-bet here despite hating getting check raised. So yeah, I like that c-bet a lot. It's really bad when you get check raised, but really good when he calls. So yeah, it's a bet, and then you just call the check raise and then get kind of, that's an interesting turn. It doesn't really change much, but it does make it significantly less likely that he has king-queen, and gives us maybe some outs if he has like 5s. Okay, so on the turn here, I don't think people check raise draws very often. So I'm just going to check this turn back. I could bet my better kings, but with a king this crappy, I'm just going to check it. I think either line would be pretty fine. I'm not really that afraid of, like, even that river. I mean, that's a terrible river. But I don't think people check raise. All right, we're going to call the river and be unhappy about it. That was a loose call on the... All right, we're going to call here. Hope he just gets something dumb. Okay, we got really unlucky there. The turn check, I think, is fine. We got really unlucky on that. Like, that was just a really unlucky river. And we got... I guess, lucky. I think the bottom left could have been a fold, and I was just kind of clicking while talking. So on the upper left, I would have bet my better kings. After he check raised, I don't think people check raise draws there very often, so I decided to check back rather than just auto bet all my kings. We happened to just get super unlucky on the river, and that's just whatever. So yeah, I think I'm fine with how I played that hand, and it is what it is. So if I had a better, so like in my mind really quickly, I was trying to think like, I don't want to do the same thing with all of my kings. Not that I'm worried about getting exploited, but like in my mind, I can already see like there's going to be clear arguments for both betting and for checking the kings. And then I just thought like, okay, well, quickly, like it seems like at a glance, I should bet my better kings and check my worst kings. And king 7 is literally my worst king. It's literally my worst king. I don't open king 6 suited in middle position. So because it's literally my worst king, I was like, okay, I'll check my literally worst king. And then on the river's terrible. But I still don't think I'm folding that. And it's not like I'm in love with it because it's trips. It's just also like you do see a lot of random stuff at Bovada reasonably often. And, I think he could have just been bluffing on the river, hoping he pushes me off. Like maybe I made a bad bet on the flop of the queen or something. Bottom left, I think I'm just going to go ahead and call, play it multi-way. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and c-bet in the upper left. I think we just get enough folds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't think we get folds half the time, but all right, I'm going to go ahead and go for a check raise. Obviously, I want to get this guy stuck in the middle. This is not a great board for him to c-bet if he doesn't have anything. So it might check around. But when something checks around on a board like this, like it's very unlikely player 2 had something that can outdraw me on the turn if it checks around. So not a big deal. All right, bottom left, going to go ahead and c-bet. And whenever you get like kind of unlucky in a spot, like always try to replay it in okay, I think I want to check here and see what happens if he bets and what this guy does. The diamond's really bad. Like the diamond's really bad here. I think I get shown a lot of flushes here. So I was just talking about how like I wasn't that worried about getting flushed on the hand where I got shown the ace jack. I'm quite worried about getting flushed here. Oh. This might be a fold. I think it is. Like, I just don't see what, like, all right, good example of someone 3-betting way too small. All right, I hate folding that, but seriously, like, he bet into 2 players there. One of them's probably a fish. His line is just incredibly consistent with someone that had a flush. Like, turns the flush draw, so that's why he calls. Maybe it's like the flush plus straight draw. Upper left, I definitely don't trust someone that, like, min 3-bets to just fold to a flop bet, so I'm going to go ahead and check it. But yeah. I'm actually going to wrap this video up, and we're going to talk for a minute about the last couple of hands and just some other stuff. All right, that's easy. Sit on next hand, sit on next hand, sit on next hand. Okay. So let's talk. So let's talk first about the King 7 suited hand. I think that's a really good hand to illustrate how useful it is to play out different outcomes in your head. So let's go to that hand real quick. Now imagine if I would have gotten a different outcome with this hand. Like imagine just for a moment, because it's very easy. Like right, he hit his gut shot on the river and he got to value bet. So it makes us feel like, oh, that turn check was bad. But like, imagine if we would have bet the turn and then our opponent check raises all in. Or imagine if we would have checked the turn, and then on the river, our opponent, the river's a total blank, and then he donk bets, we call, and we win. Then we'd probably feel really good about the outcome. I'm trying to find, okay, so right here. So perfect. So like this is a spot where on the turn, you want to play out the different outcomes in your head. So in other words, if I would have bet this turn, and my opponent check raises all in, and then he flips over king, queen, or he flips over pocket fives, am I liking the way I played the hand now? Am I liking my turn bet? And if your answer to that might be like, no, then that should be telling you that the turn check, even when I got this outcome's, maybe okay. So all I'm getting at is it's very easy in a spot like this. Like when I bet the flop with the king 7 of diamonds, it's the weakest hand I'm sort of like value betting there, and I'm doing it largely because I don't think the cold calling range includes all that many kings, and I think it includes a lot more hands like ace queen, maybe like an ace jack or something like that. But ace queen's a big one. So that's why I'm betting the flop. We got unlucky. We got check raised there. That sucks, but we call, especially with the backdoor flush draw, and we'd probably call without it. Cool. Once we get the turn that's a king, it's very easy to get frustrated, especially when you're going on a streak where you're like, checking back turns here, and you're just, they're binking like the gut shot, or like, and it seems like it's happening a lot. It's very easy to get results oriented. So what you want to do is like, I thought of my entire range while I was playing the hand, but you also want to think about like, would you have felt differently if you got a different outcome? So maybe you're watching me play this hand and you go like, I don't like Janda's river call. I don't see where the guy's bluffing with. It looks like ace jack, or maybe he had a flush draw, or maybe you got tricky with king, queen, or pocket fives, and I just think Janda's beat. Honestly, dude, I think I'm beat too, but the dude bet. What did he bet? He bet like $40 into, what was the final pot? He bet $40 into 60, so I was risking 40 to win 100. So I only need to win there something like 30% of the time, and I thought I win 30% of the time. That's why I called on the river. Not because I thought I was good, but because I was getting, significantly better than 2-to-1 odds, and I thought I would win enough. So imagine like if you don't like my turn call, and maybe the turn call was bad. I'm not saying no. Or sorry, if you don't like my river call, like, would you have still not liked my river call if I just won? Maybe I would have just won and I would have been like, LOL, Bovada, and the guy flips over like just a completely random hand. Like he flips over like, I'm just making it up, like 8, 9 of diamonds. Like, then would you still not like my river call even though I got a good outcome? Or else maybe you don't like my turn check. Would you still not have liked my turn check? Let's say the river was a 4. He bets the river, I call, and then he flips over that ace jack. Would you now still have not liked my turn check, or would you have been like, oh, that was a nice turn check by Janda? He let him miss his gut shot, and then he picked off another bet from him. And it's very easy. Like if you're running really good or really bad, not just really bad, but if you're running really good, it's very easy to sort of lose sight. I'm going to play one hand so I don't get auto sat out. It's very easy to lose sight of like how sit out next hand. It's very easy to lose sight of like how big of a deal variance is, and it's very hard to be objective. So for a hand like the last one, and there can be hands that are a lot closer and a lot grosser than that, of course, I would really encourage you to replay the hand in your head with different outcomes and see how you still feel about it. Honestly, I feel pretty good about it. Like I still like my line. I sort of stand by what I said earlier, which is like, I think on that flop, on the turn, I for sure bet like ace king. I'm going to bet king jack. I'm going to bet king 10. And then I think I would check back with like the king 7, the king 8 like I did. I would bet pocket 5s if I had them and I didn't 3-bet them on the flop. King queen we can maybe check back on the turn too because we just have the deck crippled. But that's how I'd play my range, and that seems pretty good to me. And then I also feel like, you know what, I know, yeah, I got unlucky this time, but I could have gotten a different outcome, which I would be very happy about. And then I would have loved the way I played I would have, emotionally, I would have loved the way I played the hand, right? I would have been like, awesome, I let him miss with ace jack and picked off another bet. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. I'm going to play another live video after this to be shown and released in another video in Card Runners, but we're going to just keep going on the same tables, and I'm going to keep sort of going from where I left off.